On this episode, we're going to review some events that took place in the month of April. The first one's going to be Pro Wrestling Noah with Real Overture that took place on the 9th of April. And as you know, there hasn't been any other show since then because we are expecting a big show coming up on the 29th and the 30th. But this one, it was pretty good. Some good, interesting matches that will set up the storylines all the way to the 29th and the 30th. We also got DDT Pro Wrestling with April Fool that took place on the 10th of April, with most of some of the top championships will be on the line in very special matches that were displayed. We even got Prominence with their big show they have broadcast on the Wrestle Universe called Scarlet Flame of the Beginning, which is great. We see almost everyone from Prominence except for two that I did not. One is still not able to wrestle due to injury, but it was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and of course, we cannot forget AEW Dark Elevation, where we have the return of Konosuke Takeshita from DDT. Minoru Suzuki decided to give a little lesson to the man who thinks that he is all that, QT Marshall, and of course, our main event is Max Caster versus Penta Cero Miedo. And we also got some news updates regarding on who is the sensei that Hazuki mentioned to Momokogo. And of course, we got Natural Vibes from Dragon Gate has announced a brand new member has joined the group. And of course, several updates regarding promotion GCW. So, let's get ready with another episode of the Leader Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Lead It Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Jay, right here. So, let's start with Pro Wrestling Noah with Real Overture that took place on the 9th of April. This is the last show before anything else taking place on the 29th and the 30th of April. Opening match, we have Kai Fujimura teaming up with Kinya Okada to take on Funky Express, Mohamed Yone, and King Tani. Now, keep in mind, Fujimura and Okada are two of the young boys in this. Now, they both have a prominent future in pro wrestling, most specifically in Noah, but you cannot deny the experience and the ways of Funky Express, how they've always showed the youngsters how it's done. But it was King Tani who picked up the victory with the pinfall. Next up, we got Yasutaka Yano taking on Alejandro of the Noah Junior Regular Army. I thought this match was good. Now, these two competitors are both part of the junior heavyweight division, but Yusaka, he still hasn't joined any faction. But however, there is talk that there is a possibility he could join Stinger, but it's all about Yoshinori Ogawa, what he thinks. He has teamed up with him on various occasions, but we'll see what happens then. But Alejandro continues to impress me, despite the fact that he's not officially a member of the Noah roster, but he is showing a lot of prominence, knowing that he is a Noah Junior. But it was him who picked up the victory against Yano. Next up, we got trios actions. We got Nao, Yoshiki Inamura, and Masakita Miya taking on Los Perros Congo, consisting of Niho, Nobu Sayo, and Matsukatsu Fukinaki. I have to say it was a pretty good match. Now keep in mind, Niho and Nao still have some issues they need to work out. Niho will never forgive Naho for Naho for betraying him. So basically that feud continues on. But however, Hao was the one who actually ended up being pinned by Funaki. Now Funaki has sent a message to anybody that stands in his way. So basically Funaki is the guy who did it. But I would, if I was the other team, just ignore him. Next up, we got the other members of Congo. We have Hajime Ohara, Tadasuke, and Katsuhiko Nakajima taking on two of the members of Los Perros de Mal de Japón, consistent of what's his name, Super Crazy and Nosawa Rongai, and teaming up with Sugiura Gun member Hideki Suzuki. Now, why would he team up with these guys? Team up simple. Rongai has a history with the guys from Sugiura Gun, but they probably wouldn't mind borrowing him for a while, so it would make sense. But it was Hideki who picked up the victory for his team, and I think he did that by pinning Yuji Hajime Ohara. Next up, we got Stinger. All four members, Ogawa, Suzumu, Yoshioka, and Hayata, to take on the members of the Noah Junior Regular Army. We got Atsushi Kodoge, Yohei, Junta Miyawaki, and of course Daisuke Harada. Now keep in mind, Stinger has always been the team that claims that they are the top junior heavyweight competitors, but the Noah Junior Army have been making very strong headways. Not to mention, Kodoge and Yohei are the current tag team champions for that promotion. But it was Daisuke Arada who actually picked up the victory, showing why the Noah Junior Regular Army are far more superior and well trained and more disciplined than Stinger. Next up, we got Daiki Inaba, Kaido Kiyomiya, and Go Shiozaki taking on the members of M's Alliance, Masaaki Mochizuki, Masato Tanaka, and of course Naomichi Marufuji. Now this was a pretty good match, but I was surprised that it was what's his name, Kiyomiya, who picked up the victory with the German suplex. Now he wins on rare occasions, but this time he actually pulled it off. So congratulations on that. Now our main event is Keno versus Takashi Sugiura. These two guys have been at each other's throats for many years, so it kind of fits into that whole thing with him. But it was in vain, because we know that Kiyomiya can succeed. Now our main event is Keno versus Takashi Sugiura. Now these guys have battled each other on multiple occasions. Now Keno is the kind of guy who is the real deal, and Takashi, he just doesn't give a damn. He just is there to fight. That kind of goes in. But luckily, they did not confront each other even further until it was over. But it was great. I enjoyed it. So I think that's pretty much it. With Noah, I believe it's time for DDT April Fool. Okay, DDT Pro Wrestling. We got April Fool that took place on the 10th of April, and I believe this was in Corkin Hall. First match we have is, well, actually, the first two matches are pre shows. First one is tag team, where we have, of course, we have Illusions and Yuya Kodoku from Burning to take on El Unicorn and Toy Kojima of 37 Kamina. This match, basically, the way I see it, Toy Kojima is still on the learning curve. He is still young. He has a lot to learn. But however, it was the cohesiveness between both Illusions and Yuya Kodoku actually picked up the victory for their team. And I thought it was pretty good. It was Illusions who did that by pinning Unicorn, since they hate each other. Next up, we got Gota Ihashi, Soma Takoa, and Aikido teaming up to take on the members of Disaster Box, consistent of Hazuki Kirada, now Naomi, Yoshi, Yoshimura, and of course we cannot forget Todo Owashi. Now this match was really funny. No, was it? It was really funny. Now, if you guys know Irada, he's the kind of guy who's rival in the spotlight. So he tries to ensure the other members do not get in, try not to butt in on his little dance routine, but it kind of went a little direction where the opposing team were in sunglasses, but it was Irada who picked up the victory when he outsmarted Goto Ihashi, and I thought it was pretty amazing, giving him a pretty good victory on that one. Now, our opening match on the main card is Yuki Ishida taking on Kano. Now, this guy comes from the promotion Just Tap Out, Takumi Chinuku's promotion. Now, I'm not 100% sure if he is now a full member of DDT or he's on loan. It's still unclear to me. I haven't done my research, but I will find out sooner or later. So it was a pretty good match, I have to say. But Yuki Ishida felt threatened that Kanon is there. It kind of tells that, but apparently Kanon, who's been well trained by Takumi Michinoku, was not good enough to stop him. But yeah, that's how I see it. Now, first championship match, we have the KOD tag team titles. We have, of course, Yuji Ino and Yukio Naya to take on CDK's Masahiro Takanashi and Chris Brooks. Now, you know these guys will stop at nothing to ensure those titles remain. However, there was a moment where Ino and Naya thought they won the match, but in fact, what's his name? Chris Brooks was like playing mind games, and it worked, in every aspect. But they were able to isolate Ino and Yukio much as possible, but they couldn't. But it was who was it? It was Masahiro who picked up the victory for his team, and I thought it was pretty amazing. Our next match, we have the KOD 6-man tag team titles. We have Damnation TA met MJ Pauly, Minoru Fujita, and Daisuke Sasaki to take on the Pheromones. Now, keep in mind, the Pheromones are nothing but trouble. Even the general manager doesn't like it, but I'm sure he was pretty much surprised that that the Pharaohs took where did he just hear, and it just took off. And I didn't think it was possible, but it did. But the way I see it, these guys are not playing around. Damnation, they never play around, but this cost them. But it was the pinfall onto what's his name? But it was down. I have to say, it was the downfall of all members of what's the name? Of Days Off. But I thought it was great. I mean, Pheromones, I thought it was nuts, but they were able to win the tag. Now, our next match, we have Miyako Matsumoto and Cherry to take on Maya Yuhiki and Sakiaki. I thought this match was great. Now, Matsumoto, she is out of her mind. She causes problems. She likes to stir the pot. But luckily for her, she got herself beat up, taken out. But Miyako is the one who is a bit of the hothead. But it did allow for Sakiaki to pick up the victory by a submission. It was great. Excuse me. Next up, we got Yusuke Okada taking on Shun Katsumata. I have to say, Okada did a pretty good job as a singles competitor. I think he has a lot of potential. but I think he wants to learn more. But it was him who defeated Shuna Yushada, um, Shuna Katsumata. Now our semi-final match, we have Eruption, consisting of Hideki Okatani, Konosuke Iguchi, and of course, 37 Kaminas. Yuki Ino and Mao. I thought this match was insane. They want to continue on, despite of everything. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I could hear the commotion. Excuse me. But yeah, I have to say, this one with Eruption 37 coming in was put to the test. But however, it was Yuki Ino who once again picked up the victory, knowing how he is now targeting for a shot of the open of the KOD Openweight Championship, and I think it tells all. But right now, let's move on to the next match, which is our final. Antonio Honda, Arashima, and Konosuke Takeshita taking on Yukio Sakaguchi, uh, Chunakiyama, and Tetsuya Endo. I thought it was great, but in this one, it had to be coming to an end. That means, what's his name? Well, or whatever. But yes, I thought it was great. But I was like surprised how Antonio Honda in this last match really stood toe to toe against Sensei Endo, and I think Endo respects him for being a good sport, trying to be hanging on. And I think that's pretty gutsy of him. But yeah, but I have to say DDT was a pretty good show on this one. But let's move on with Prominence. Okay, Prominence. It's been a while since I did a review of them, but there have been some shows they posted, but you couldn't see it anywhere else. Normally, they had in the past broadcast shows with Wrestle Universe. If you remember, Prominence brought a different kind of energy to draw the attention of Shinjiro Takagi, and now they launched one of their big shows, Scarlet Flame of the Beginning. This one took place recently on the 24th of April. Now, the first match is just a straight up normal match. No hardcore, no death matches. One way we have Yukari Ozokawa, who we know her back then with Got to Move as Rinrin, teaming up with Anarchy, Ryo Mizunami, to take on Izuki Aoki and Miyako Matsumoto. Now, in certain times with Miyako Matsumoto, she is out of her freaking mind. She's a hothead. She doesn't know what she's doing. But when it comes to how these matches are, it's going to turn out great. But Ryo Mizunami is one of the most fantastic wrestlers we have witnessed so far. But it was her who picked up the victory when she pinned Miyu Matsumoto, and it was over from there. Now our next match is a hardcore three-way match. We got Super Hardcore Machine taking on Orca Uto, don't know who he is, and then of course Toshiyuki Sakuda. Now I don't know who he is, but from what I can tell, these are wrestlers involved in death matches, but don't know them. But Super Hardcore Machine was trying to choke out his competitors, but unfortunately he got pinned by Sakuda in order to win the match. Next up is an actual hardcore match. We got Mochi Miyagi taking on Takayuki Oiki. This match was kind of weird. Yuiki actually takes off his shoes, which was strange, but Mochi, she did her best. She even bled herself too, but Yuki took an advantage when he used like a wooden horse in order to win the match. And anything could happen. But that's practically what took place for that particular match. Now, next one is a fluorescent light tube death match. We have Risa Serra taking on uh, Takeshi Zaki of Freedoms. I have to say, this match was nuts. I have to say, Risa Serra, I've seen her in death matches, but taking a whole lot of punishment and pain in the hands of Sasaki, that is says a lot. A lot. I mean, she tries to hang in there much as possible, but to no avail. It was Sasaki who picked up a very strong victory, but I think he praises her that she showed a lot of guts, and I think that shows prominence is something that people should get behind of. Now, our main event is a bring the weapons tag team match. We have Zuzu Suzuki, Jun Kasai to take on Akane Fujita and Yolanda Jack. I thought it was nuts too, crazy. Um, the first person to bleed was Zuzu, and I'm like, damn, girl, you started bleeding already. But Jun Sakai started cutting Akane. I'm like, dang. The only ones who were not bleeding was Jun Kasai and Violento Jack. It was crazy. But I have to say, Zuzu really was. I feel like she's the much bigger star at 19 years old. But it's great the way she has been in this particular scenario match, and I think it showed a lot of character. It was her who picked up a strong victory when she pinned Akane Fujita, and I thought it was great. And I think we'll see her with more hardcore death matches. But as soon as Zuzu won her match, Jun Kazai praises her, and I think it felt a heartwarming thing for her to hear that from someone like him. And I think we could see those two work together at some point. So, what did I thought about Prominence? I have to say it was a pretty good show. I enjoyed it. I mean, I did enjoy the matches that involved most all the members of Prominence, but we'll see what happens in the future. And I think right now it's time for us to move on with AEW Dark Elevation. Okay, our last review is AEW Dark Elevation. Now, this next one, the first match, I don't know what to make of it. Luther had a couple of guys that he picked. We have Bulk Nasty, Tito Omic, Jake Omes, and RC Dupree. I don't know who these guys. They're facing off against the Dark Order of Stu Grayson, Evil Uno, Alan Five Angels, 10, and of course Alex Reynolds. I don't know. It was kind of bizarre. One of them had to wear the mask of Serpentico, but no avail. But they were able to outsmart um, Smart Luther. But with this, and I think with the combination of fatality on one of them, sealed the deal for everyone. Next up, we got Julia Hart with Chris Statlander. Things have changed between Chris Statlander and, of course, Julia, but things remain the same. As you know, Chris Statlander still is the same person who wants to show winning ways. That's exactly what she did when she pulled off what used to be called the Big Bang Theory, but I forgot what she calls it now. Now, our next match, we have Tony Nese with Sterling to take on Steel City Brawler. Don't know who this guy is, but Tony Nese won by that knee strike right in the face that allowed him to win. Now, our next match is QT Marshall and the Factory taking on the King. Big mistake. But the Factory were caught with their hand in the cookie jar. They were sent back to the locker room. But I had to say Minoru Suzuki really what I did like is that knockout he took out. It was great. But he decided to continue playing with his little toy. And I thought it was interesting because QT thought he was all that, but no. Now our next match, we have John Silver versus Vance Valor. Man, this match is great. But the Spin Doctor always sealed the deal for John Silver. I thought it was great too. Now our next match is the Bunny, Emi Sakura, Nyla Rose versus Anna Jay, Sky Blue, and Ruby. So it was good. I enjoyed it. Anna Jay is growing so much, so she applied the armbar, and it was over right from there. But it was pretty good. Now, our main event for this particular one is Benta Scooter versus Max Caster. Now, Max, you better be careful what you say because Benta is going to chop you, and that's exactly what he's going to do. And I thought it was so hilarious. But it showed don't mess with him, or else. But I guess the Acclaim will never learn. But Benta did pick up a good victory in this one. So I think right now let's find out what's going on in the news updates. Okay, so here are some news updates. Now, this is coming from Stardom. Let's go back in time in February. If you remember, Momo Kogo approached the members of Stars, consistently Mayu Iwatani, Koguma, and Hazuki. Now, Mayu and Koguma had no problems with her joining Stars, but Hazuki is the one who had to be more convinced due to the fact that she felt that everyone in Stars are homegrown Stardom girls from the dojo, and I think it made a lot of sense. Now, Momo's not part of that breed, but however, it was Mayu Iwatani who, in fact, told her the trainer. Now, Momo, in some point, had two big matches coming up. One at New Blood, which is the very first one. Second one was was against Hana for the future belt. However, Hazuki did say about a sensei. Now, nobody knows who the sensei was. Now, there were speculations from people thinking it's Hazuki, Kagetsu. Now, I wouldn't mind Kagetsu, but I feel like there is no way the Bushiroad is going to allow her to come back, because I remember hearing from various sources that there was like a bit of issues that Bushiroad had with her and the reason why she retired. But you may never know. But now the revealment was shown. Who is the mysterious sensei? And that's none other than, of course, Blue Justice, Yuji Nagata. Now, some of you are saying, what? Yes, that was my reaction. Blue Justice is the sensei. And I'm like, wow. It makes perfect sense, because if you guys notice, he is training young lions at the New Japan Dojo in Tokyo. And I think it played out pretty well, and they even celebrated his birthday. But I'm like wondering, what have these girls learned? Well, we'll see when it comes to their upcoming events. Now, interesting developments took place in Dragon Gate. I haven't been seeing Dragon Gate for quite some time. However, things have changed. Now, it appears that one particular person hasn't decided which faction to join, but one particular guy wants him to join Zebrats, and that is Shun Skywalker. If you remember, Shun Skywalker caused Dragon Dia to lose his mask by his carelessness, but the other members of Masquerade did not like that, and they all joined their own units. I mean, you have, of course, what's his name? Oh yeah, we have Minoru Koda Minoru, who in fact with what's his name? Gold Class is one he's in, and of course we have Dragon Dai, he's already withdrew. And I think but Jason Lee will never forget what Shun Skywalker did. And he kicked him right in the face, siding with the Natural Vibes, and they wanted him. And now there's 7 members of the Natural Vibes. I don't know how they're gonna keep this, but I'm pretty much excited. Now, last thing, GCW has announced some updates. Now, in some point on June 10th, they will be making their debut in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm like very excited for that. But however, the other update regarding GCW we have is the Atlantic City update, where now it's been confirmed that Bussy will put their title on the line in a three-way against Satan Gear Crew and the Briscoe. So this is going to be one slobber knocker of a match. Can't wait to see it. So I think that's pretty much it. It's time for me to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, there will be two separate videos. One will be featuring recent events, one by DDT, the finals of the King of Street Wrestling and Tokyoshi Pro. And then I'll do another video with Tuesday Wrestling involving the National Wrestling Alliance, and AEW Dark, and of course NXT 2.0. So I'm kind of excited for everything. So right now I'm going to say I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.